And this over here is Anna Mendieta. She took loads of photographs of herself. A lot of female artists like to use self-portraiture.
Maybe it's because other people don't see them how they really are.
The idea of femininity in art is one that artists of all genders have historically been fascinated by. The beauty, the mystery, the sexuality are all things that captivate us into these both physical and metaphorical portraits of women. However, as people who live in a heavily gendered world, these depictions don't always look exactly the same. In a patriarchal society, women are more often than not portrayed in ways that we wouldn't exactly choose to portray ourselves. So this brought up my question: how does the male portrayal of femininity in art compare from female portrayal of femininity through self-portraiture? Now, art is incredibly broad, so I mean to focus on specifically paintings that are portraits from the 15th century onwards. In the world of art, the female nude is a classic subject of portraiture, something we as people have been historically fascinated by. In fact, this image was created by the Guerrilla Girls in 1989, entitled, "Do Women Have to Be Naked to Get into the Met Museum?" It makes the point that while 85% of the nudes in the Met are of women, less than 5% of the art in total is even created by women. That means that the portraits we as a society are getting the most exposure to, doing the most amount of research on, are primarily done from the perspective of men. This painting from 1905 is an incredibly famous one by Gustav Klimt entitled Mother and Child. This painting demonstrates the beauty in motherhood and generations. It poses the mother as a kind of ethereal Venus figure. She's a caregiver, but she's beautiful, she's put together, she's nurturing, she's everything a woman is expected to be and more. There's a pattern of portraying women as soft, shown with round lines and smooth edges, often with a pattern of displaying purity. In most male-created portraits of women, women are the subject of the viewer's attention and adoration. However, it tends to be a patriarchal idea of beauty and femininity. And while it's a lovely projection of what an idealized woman is or can be, why is this type of woman the only one being admired? Albrecht Dürer's drawing from 1527, entitled Draftsman Drawing a Nude. This image very clearly lays out the role of artist versus muse. Female nudity and sexuality was such a taboo to express that it could only be done through the perspective of men. Female sexuality is meant to become digestible in a specific way that makes men comfortable. Women are often meant to look meek and graceful and beautiful and nothing else. It removes any sort of identity and agency from the woman, and she becomes a token to be admired and nothing more. When I recently went to the Art Gallery of Ontario, I came across a painting called Nude on a Kitchen Chair. And this painting was created by artist Mary Pratt, and it was a painting she had done based on photographs her husband had posed and shot of the family's babysitter. Mary's take on the painting of this photograph is that she's observing the relationship between the painter and his muse. She's quoted as saying, "If women are the muse for men, what is the muse for women?" It's a question that arguably has no certain or specific answer. The idea of the mystique of a man's muse, a woman he can move and design to be however he wants, is not a concept that is exclusive to art. This male-pleasing art of portraying the female body is just as prevalent in modern culture, even outside of art. A massive industry surrounding the same ideals of portraying women in a way that's digestible for men is the porn industry. Fine art, at first glance, seems to be this stark contrast to the abrasiveness and explicitness of pornography, but actually they're quite similar. Porn and art are the two contrasting women that men want us to be, both pure and virgin-like, something to be admired, but also sexual and complacent. But these are actually incredibly similar. It can often be posed as appreciating the female figure and female sexuality, but in reality it tends to be using female sexuality to appeal to the straight man's sexuality. The woman tends not to benefit in any way. In reality, women are not one or the other. Each woman is not a portrait or a porn star. We're neither, and at the same time, we're both. We're complicated and we can be both sexual and something to be admired and desired, or we can be none of those things at all. The moral here is that women don't get to control how they're admired. It has to be on a man's standards. And that implies that we have to play into those desires to be accepted. But that does not necessarily need to be the messaging of art. Female self-portraiture is a section of art that is entirely unburdened by this idea of the ideal woman and allows women to express themselves how they really see themselves.